Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of Fic Night. This is, of course, the May. In this month, we are featuring another new author who I don't think's ever been recognized before on Fic Night, Maggie, aka Lavana, in her story 2 Months, which was written for a challenge that was hosted by Ava, aka Just a Willow Tree, on our hpfanfictalk.com forums. The name of that challenge was the Love Blank Challenge, and basically the goal of the challenge was to write a romantic comedy story between queer characters that ultimately ended with a happy ending. People were entitled to have some sort of angst, conflicts, obstacles to the relationship, but ultimately a happy ending with the sort of darker side of emotions on the minimal. People were encouraged to explore writing relationships outside their comfort zones, and 2 Months was a story that Lavana submitted for the challenge, focusing on Cho Chang, who most of us all know from the Harry Potter books, and an original female character who you'll get to know by 2 different names when we read the story. On hpfanfic.talk.com, we've also got an archive, and the story is there. The link is in the description to this video. But you will see that on our archive, we also have some inclusivity tags. And in keeping with this challenge, the story focuses on characters. It focuses on person of color. It also focuses on bisexuality and a lesbian relationship. And so without further ado, we are going to proceed with first the reading and then questions taken from you, whether it's on our Twitter feed, where you can tweet at us at hpfanfictalk, or whether it is in the chat, which has been enabled in this video. And so without further ado, we are going to proceed to the reading of 2 Months by Lavana. 2 Months. Ever since I was a little girl, I'd always dreamed of the perfect man. He'd come out of nowhere and sweep me off my feet. We'd go on romantic dates, and we'd be the envy of all my friends. What I wanted was my own Prince Charming. I had thought that maybe this time would be different. No such luck. Maybe my expectations for men were too high. I sigh to myself and pick at a loose thread on my jumper as I walk down the street. Another date, another bust on this whole dating thing. Maybe I'm destined to be alone forever because I don't know what's wrong with me or why I can't seem to find the right man. He'd been so attractive, smart, and funny, but he hadn't met my expectations. Again. I let out a disgusted noise at myself. There's a faint popping, and I look up from my feet in time to see a girl appear right in front of me. She's breathing heavily, and she looks terrified. My eyes widen, and I backpedal only to end up tripping over my own feet. My palms sting. The asphalt scrapes them painfully, but I'm not paying attention to that because I'm more focused on the girl that just appeared right in front of me. Our eyes meet, and she looks just as shocked as I do. In the span of a few seconds, I notice several things about her. Her eyes are the most beautiful, warmest, and deepest shade of brown I've ever seen. The sun accentuates the already light bronze hue in her cheeks, and her hair looks just so soft that I have the briefest of thoughts that I want to run my fingers through it. I feel my cheeks warm and my ears are burning as I look up at her. Then my senses kick back in and my brain goes back to the fact that she just appeared in front of me. I scramble back to my feet and gape at her. My mind is trying to come up with reasons for what just happened. Maybe she came from around the corner of that alley over there. No, that's too far away. Maybe she was there the whole time? No, I think I would have heard her. D- did you just. I gesture wildly with my hands at her. I'm completely mental, right? My voice raises an octave. Because there's no way that you just. Shit! She breathes out. She's shifting on her feet and looking at me like she doesn't know what to do. Hell, I don't know what to do. But she's looking up at me with something like deep regret. The next moment, she's pulling out a stick, and I back up several paces, careful not to trip this time. I raise my hands in panic because, well, that's only a stick. Who knows what that's about? Fear must flicker across my face because she instantly lowers the stick and stops pointing it at me. She regards me thoughtfully before giving me a shy smile. My pulse picks up at that, not because of fear, but because I can't help but think it's the most stunning smile I've ever seen. I wouldn't mind seeing that smile every day. Don't tell anyone about this, she says, tucking the stick inside her denim jacket. Actually, it'd be best if you don't think about this and try to forget it. I nod silently. I wouldn't have told anyone about this anyway. Who would believe me anyway? They'd think I'm completely mental if I went around claiming some girl just appeared out of thin air. As it is, I think I'm a bit mental. She nods back and turns to step away. There's another pop, and she's gone. What the fuck? A month and a half. I lean against the counter with my eyes closed and let the scent of tea, coffee, and fresh pastries wash over me. It's a slow day at the cafe, so my thoughts run wild. Today marks 2 weeks since the mysterious girl had appeared in front of me. I have no idea what her name is, but I was doing the complete opposite of what she'd said. Well, I hadn't told anyone that a girl had appeared in front of me, but I was thinking about her. I'd thought about her a lot in the past 2 weeks. Just the thought of her caused flutters in my stomach. I hadn't felt like this before, but it felt like how my friends at school always described it when they had a crush on some bloke. But she's a girl. I'm a girl. It never occurred to me that maybe it wasn't my unrealistic expectations of men, rather than the fact that they were men. Of course, I know that girls can like girls the way boys do. It was just never something that I had thought about or considered. Until I met her, that is. She's taken my whole world and turned it upside down. I'm fine with that. I just wish I could see her again. I should have given her my number because knowing my luck, I'll never see her again. She'll end up being the beautiful, nameless girl that haunts my dreams. It could have been a dream, a wish. The bell above the door chimes softly, and I open my eyes in preparation of a new customer. I freeze in shock because it's her, the girl. She tucks a strand of hair behind her ear and meets my eyes. She stops in her tracks, eyes widening as she recognizes me. She turns to leave, but stops when I call out, "Wait!" She looks at me inquiringly, and with a bit of embarrassment when she realizes the few people here are staring at her. So I throw her what I hope is my most charming smile. I'm sure there's something on the menu you'll like. I can see the hesitation in her eyes for a moment, but my charming smile wins her over. At least that's what I hope. And she comes over to the counter. Her eyes glance up at the menu uncertainly. It feels like she's avoiding my gaze. I don't know what to get, she says softly. She's looking at me again, and I can see a faint blush tinging her cheeks a rosy bronze. You allergic to anything? She shakes her head, and my grin widens. I turn away and start rifling through the tea. She strikes me as a tea kind of girl. I find what I'm looking for, an orange spice flavor and a vanilla. It's my favorite combination to drink. I pour the hot water into a cup and inhale the warm scent of cinnamon and vanilla. I really hope she likes it. I scrawl my number across the cup before sliding it over to her. Let that sit for a minute or so. With a nod, she picks up the tea. I can see a small smile form when she smells it. Can I read people or what? She opens her mouth, but then closes it again when she sees my number. Her eyebrows raise questioningly, and she looks back at me. That's my number. You should give me a ring sometime, yeah? She looks even more confused at that, and more than a bit flustered. My cheeks burn. Maybe I can't read people as well as I thought. She stutters out a thanks and turns to leave. What's your name? I blurt out in a last ditch effort because I need to know. She looks back and gives me that same dazzling smile she'd gifted me with 2 weeks ago. Cho. I grin back. I wipe down the counter and try to hide my smile. It's not until after I hear the door chime and she's already too far away that I realize I'd forgotten to charge her for the drink. I shrug to myself and pull out my wallet. I don't mind. I can definitely read people as well as I think I can. 5 weeks. 1 day later and she hasn't called me. 2 days later and she hasn't called me. 3 days later and she hasn't called me. 4 days and still hasn't called me. By the fifth day, I'm beginning to think she's not going to call, but I still have hope. The sixth day rolls around and I've nearly given up. Day 7, she's not calling. I stare up at my ceiling. I think idly about the fact that I should repaint it. And my room. It's a pasty green color that just looks gross. Maybe a lavender color or a blue would be better. I huff in annoyance at myself and roll on my bed. Can't believe I'm thinking about paint. Apparently, I cannot read people. She hasn't called me, and now I'm certain she won't. I don't regret paying for her tea, though. I just wish she would have called, or at the very least said she's not interested. I've never felt like this before, for a man or for a woman, and I'd put myself out of my comfort zone. I'd been stupid to think I could ever have a chance with Cho. Falling in love with the way we met only happens in the movies, and my life isn't something you'd see at the cinema. I know I should stop thinking about her, because at this point it's probably weird, but there's just something about Cho that makes it impossible to forget her. Most likely the fact that she'd appeared in front of me. It has me curious. I want to know, but I also want to know what her lips would feel like against mine. The phone rings. I roll over and scramble to pick up the phone, knocking the glass of water from my nightstand. I ignore it though, more focused on the phone. It's just water anyway. Doesn't matter if it seeps into the rug. Hello? I ask hesitantly, daring to hope. Hi, it's Cho. Her voice sounds a bit different over the phone, but I recognize it all the same. I flop back onto my bed. The feeling of butterflies in my stomach comes back with full force, and I'm grinning. Hi. My voice is breathless, and I've lost all my confidence. Would you like to have lunch tomorrow? Cho asks. A date? I hope. Sure. I try to sound casual and hope that I come off that way. My shift ends at noon. I can meet you at the park around the corner from the cafe I work at. Great. I twist the cord around my finger. Did you like the tea? I loved the tea. There hadn't been a note of hesitation in Cho's voice. Cue internal screaming on my part. A month and 6 days. The swings are moving along with the light breeze beside me, and the sun is warm and happy. I scrape the dirt with the toe of my shoe and look at my watch. 12:25. I don't think she's too familiar with the area, so I'm not worried. Mostly I'm concerned that I overdressed for this date. I changed in the back room at work before heading to the park. I look good, I think. My white summer dress contrasts my rich brown tones, but I don't want to appear over the top because I chose to wear a dress. Hey, it's Cho. My hands start to sweat and my pulse quickens, but I try to hide my nervousness behind a smile as I stand up from the swing. Cho looks at me and grins. You look beautiful. I can feel the now familiar heat creeping into my cheeks and the tips of my ears. Cho is apparently very good at invoking that reaction from me. I shuffle my feet and hide my face by looking at the ground, still smiling at the compliment. I peer up at her through my lashes. You look beautiful too. And she does. She's wearing the same denim jacket from 3 weeks ago and a royal blue dress. So I'm not overdressed. Her smile widens, and oh, how I love when she smiles at me like that. I wonder if she thinks the same when I smile. My stomach flutters at that, though. I hope she does. There's a slight pause before Cho responds again. So I realized that I don't know your name. I fiddle with the band of my wristwatch as I debate with myself on whether I should tell her my first name or not. I don't particularly like it and much prefer going by my middle name instead. Part of me wants to tell her, though. That part of me also hopes that she likes my name. Fleur, I eventually tell her as we start walking along the path in the park. She laughs brightly at that. I would have been offended by that if I didn't also agree, and if I didn't find her laugh enchanting. As it is, though, I do agree, and her laugh is, in fact, enchanting. I want to make her laugh again. Yeah, I agree with amusement. I usually go by my middle name, Nanette. Fleur sounds too posh. Not that the Nanette doesn't sound posh either, but it's better. Fleur is a beautiful name. I'm fairly sure that I've started glowing at that. I laughed because I knew a Fleur when I was at school. She was quite flouncy. I had noticed her hesitation and how she'd cut off mid-word, but I let it go. Instead, a laugh as I say, I assure you, I am not flouncy. Joe's laughter joins mine. Her laughter is infectious and melodious. Lunch ends up turning into dinner as well, and I'm not home until it's late. It's probably closer to dawn than midnight. I'll be tired for my classes tomorrow, but I don't care. It was worth it. I'll remember everything about today and how we just talked till nearly dawn. 2 weeks. I look up from wiping down the counter when the door chimes. I light up when I see that it's Joe. I'm not sure if we're dating. We haven't really discussed it. We hold hands, though, when we walk in the park together, so I think maybe there's something there. I start making Cho's usual tea order, the same one as the first time. I pass the steaming cup over to Cho when she steps up to the counter. Thanks, love. I grin at the new term of endearment. Yeah, there's definitely something between us. She quirks an eyebrow at me, probably wondering why I just started grinning widely. I shrug indifferently at her and continue to clean the counter. A comfortable silence falls between us as Cho begins to read something, as she leans on the counter from the other side. There's no one else here, so she stays near. I don't want to break the silence, because it's nice. I love that we can just be in the same room together. Unfortunately, Cho's silence on the whole appearing in front of me thing is bothering me, and I need to know. Can I ask you something? I ask hesitantly. Cho looks up and nods her approval, so I continue. Remember when you appeared right in front of me? Are you going to explain that? Cho freezes and looks at me. She looks uncomfortable now, but I have no idea why. I can't tell you, she whispers. I frown at that, a bit irritated with that. I've always thought that trust was an important aspect to a relationship, but I'm fairly sure that we're in one, and I really like her. Cho looks at me for a moment longer before going back to reading. She appears outwardly unfazed, but after nearly 2 months of seeing her on a fairly frequent basis, I've begun to notice things about her, like how she taps her fingers when she's nervous. Do you like me? I ask, suddenly changing tactics. I mean, like me? Like being my girlfriend like? Cho's fingers stop mid tap and she stares at her book. I can tell she isn't reading it anymore. The silence drags on between us, and I'm almost afraid that I really have been misreading everything. When Cho looks back at me with a small, sad smile, I feel my heart break. But as always, she surprises me. I do, Nanette. I really like you. She takes a deep breath. I can see tears shimmering in her eyes. I haven't felt like this since Cedric, and I really want there to be something. I can see us being together, but she trails off, and I can tell she was thinking, so I don't interrupt. I want to tell you, but I need permission first. Meet me at the park in 2 weeks. Uh, I watch in silence as she turns and practically runs out of the cafe. As the door shuts behind her, I'm left in confusion. I notice then that she left her book behind. I mark the page for her and then look at the cover curiously. It's worn, clearly a well loved book, and it's called Enchanted Encounters by Fifi Lafall. I've never heard of it. I took the book into my bag. 2 weeks is going to feel like an eternity, so I might as well read the book. 1 hour. It's reminiscent to the first time that I'd been here with Joe. The sun is shining just as brightly, and there's a light breeze that tussles my hair. This time, though, I'm wearing a light pink dress. The closer it gets to 10, the more nervous I became. Joe had called last time and asked to meet at the park. There's a faint pop, like the one I'd heard 2 months ago. I look up, but Joe doesn't appear in front of me. I'm a little disappointed at that. Maybe I was mental. Nanette! My head jerks up, and I see Joe standing a little bit away from me. I start to smile until I see a man standing slightly behind her, looking rather awkward. I look between Cho and the man in confusion. I don't suspect anything between them, but this has me worried. There's someone here with Cho. That means that whatever she has to tell me is serious. She did say she needed permission first. Who's that? Nanette, this is my friend Harry. We went to school together. I raise an eyebrow at her. Is he who you needed to get permission from? That seems weird to me. Not exactly. She takes my hand and turns and looks pointedly at Harry. He seems to get the picture and, looking somehow even more awkward than before and rubbing the back of his neck, goes to sit at a picnic table. He tries to make it look like he's not watching us, but he obviously is. Why? I trail off, staring at the man. You trust me? I nod, because I honestly do. Cho smiles and my heart melts. I'll tell you why he's here later. She takes a breath and drops my hand so she can reach into her denim jacket and pull out a stick. It's the same stick as before. I'm not afraid this time, though, because I know Cho would never hurt me. Also, it's just a stick. My fear 2 months ago had been irrational. I meet Cho's eyes, and I can see how much she cares for me reflected in her eyes. I er, think ordinarily I'd have to be married to you to tell you this. But you're right. Relationships are built on trust, and I just can't keep something like this from you. She twirls the stick between her fingers, and I can tell she's trying to decide what to say next. I read your book, I blurt out without thinking. I have no idea why I did, because this is probably a serious discussion, but some part of me also wanted to break up the morbid feeling. She blinks at me. Then she slowly gives me a sly smile. You know the world that exists in that book? I look at her in utter confusion because I don't see how the wizarding world that is portrayed in that, admittedly good, although horribly cliched, book is at all relevant to the current conversation. Then again, it's my fault for bringing it up in the first place. Yeah, but I don't see how that. I break off and look at her, and my eyes flick to the stick. The wand that she's still twirling between her fingers. No. Are you saying that? Bloody hell. I thought we were having a serious conversation, Cho. I shake my head because there's no way that can't possibly be. There's no way that my almost girlfriend is a witch and that magic exists because that would be completely insane. But as I look at Cho, I realize that she's completely serious, and my mind flashes back to when Cho had appeared out of thin air in front of me. No, that couldn't be true. Magic doesn't exist, and yet I must have a panicked look on my face, and my silence is dragging on for too long because I see Cho glance uncertainly over to Harry. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see him hovering closer to us, though he stays far enough back to grant us a bit of privacy. I'm barely aware of him, though, more focused on processing what Cho's told me. Can you show me? I finally manage to ask. Her eyes brighten, and she takes a step back as she waves her stick, her wand, in a sort of flicking motion. The next second, a white and pink teddy bear appears in the air between us. I reach out with shaking fingers and grab it. It's soft and incredibly real. I sway on my feet and look at Cho with wide eyes. And that, I faint. 2 minutes. She fainted. Well, she did just find out magic is real. I blink my eyes open and find myself face to face with Cho. She's close enough that we could kiss, which I wouldn't exactly mind at the moment. Her face splits into a smile when she sees my eyes open. She shifts and stands up before helping me to my feet. The moment I'm steady on my feet, she steps away from me and clears her throat in awkward embarrassment. No, no, you can be in my space. I don't mind, I protest with a fake pout. There's a scoff of amusement, and I turn to see Harry standing a few paces away, looking thoroughly amused by the whole situation. He's smiling faintly, so I think he might be happy with the outcome. That's cute. He and Cho must be good friends. Well, you clearly don't need me. I'll be heading out then. I'd better be invited to the wedding, Harry says. He throws Cho an even wider grin before turning on the spot and disappearing with a pop. I blink at the spot where he'd been turning back to Cho. So, I dragged the word out. He was here because? Cho coughs awkwardly and rubs the back of her head. Right. I brought Harry in case you didn't take it well and didn't want anything to do with me. I must look somewhat horrified and worried about what that could have meant because Cho hurries to reassure me. It's nothing too horrible, I mean, depending on your point of view. We have secrecy laws, and if you'd taken it badly, I would have had to modify our memory, and I wouldn't be able to look at you and do that. It was probably selfish of me, but I didn't want to watch you forget me. Maybe I should have been more concerned about the memory thing, but that's not Cho's fault, so I was more focused on the fact that Cho wouldn't have been able to take my memory herself, which I thought was sweet. Most people in this situation would say something like, if I had to lose my memory, I'd want you to take it. I'd actually think it's cute that Cho didn't want to do it herself. I think that shows how much she cares about me because it would have been too hard. I tell Cho as much and she laughs lightly, but I can still see worry in her eyes. So do you still want to be my girlfriend? Obviously. I mean, you magicked a teddy bear for me. That's the most romantic thing ever. She takes my hand suddenly and pulls me close. My pulse quickens because Cho is so close to me. I'm looking at her lips and they look so soft. The next second, I discover exactly how soft they are. Hint, extremely soft. 2 months first appeared in front of me. Cho Chang kisses me, and it's the most amazing feeling in the world. I look at her breathlessly when she pulls away. Her eyes are shining with happiness, and she just looks so beautiful. I want to tell her I think she's amazing, or that she's beautiful. Maybe I should ask her out for our first real date. There's so many things I should say to her, that I want to say to her, but I don't say any of them. Instead, perhaps the dumbest question falls from my lips. I get to keep the bear, right? So that was 2 months by Lavana, aka Maggie, from hpfanfictalk.com. I know one of the things that I enjoyed most about the story was easily the characterization of Fleur, aka Nanette. We're just going to go with Nanette from this point forward. Because she came across as just so authentic to me. She was kind of quirky, I think, in her speech versus thoughts, which is definitely true to life. But she also noticed things I think that people would notice, but didn't belabor with descriptions that sometimes I think writers get hung up on. And people are noticing like every grain in the desk or the way the sun shines off of a poster or something like that. So I really appreciated the balance between her dialogue, her thoughts, and the way that she saw the world. And I thought it was really real. I also think Maggie did an excellent job at capturing the emotions of the sort of early phases of a relationship where people are dating, they're not quite sure it's a relationship. There's always that awkward sense, I think, on both sides of, is this a relationship? What are we really doing? I really like them. Do they really like me? Where's this headed? All these things are running through somebody's head, even as the frequency of interactions ramp up. And then um, obviously it's a more extreme example in this case, but people also start to get into that, I feel like I need to tell them this, or I need to know this about this person. And is this going to totally destroy everything? Is it going to totally warp the way that they look at me? And all sorts of things like that. So I thought it was an exceptional story. I really enjoyed reading it, both in preparation for Fic Night and again to all of you. I apologize for a few hiccups along the way, and I probably butchered the author's name of the book that Cho was reading, but absolutely enjoyed the story. And I think now, if I'm correct, Maggie is here with us. I think she is muted right now, so hopefully,
Oh,
hopefully
I didn't realize I was muted.
there we go. So she is here. And thank you very much for joining us. Fic Night is always more exciting and interesting when we have the actual author here. So I am going to hop over and make sure that I get everything covered as far as questions that people may be asking on either Twitter or on the live chat. And it looks like we do not have any questions pouring in yet. So I will just jump with starting off with my standard question. What inspired you to write Cho Chang with this particular original character?
I don't really know. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm using my
Coming
brain.
through loud and clear.
Awesome. Well, it's for Eva's challenge. Eva's. And I was just on like the Harry Potter wiki looking through characters, and I was on Cho Chang's for some reason. I don't remember why, but like I saw that she ends up with a Muggle, and I was like, I can work with that. And it doesn't say like who, it's just a Muggle. So I was like, all right, she ends up with a Muggle girl. So that's kind of just like what happened. And then I just kind of wrote it in one sitting, so I didn't really plan it at all. So it just happened.
Well, that is very impressive that you wrote that in one sitting. At I think it was almost at our 5,000 word cap. I think it was like 40. I think it was like 4,500 words.
Yeah.
But it also, I don't know if you were here when I was rambling on about my thoughts of it, but it came out pretty amazingly for a story that was written in one sitting.
Oh, thank you.
So congrats on that for sure. One of the things that I was saying was I really liked how Nanette was so authentic. Like she really felt like a real person going through all of this stuff. How did you approach her character in particular?
I kind of just wrote her in like my idealized version of if I found a girl. So not that I don't really think I act like Nanette, but that's kind of what I based it off of, like how I think I would react if I was in that situation. So probably why I managed to write it just like all in one sitting, because I kind of just based her off of myself, or at least personality wise.
Gotcha. Well, one of the other things that I know I'd mentioned was I think there was a great balance in the story between the dialogue to develop things between her and Cho, these inner thoughts that like people are always having in the early stages of relationships, and the descriptions. What advice would you give anybody who's trying to find more balance in their writing?
Well, the way I do it is I write my like base idea down, and then I go through and I look at how much dialogue I have compared to that, and then I add stuff in. I don't know if that's good advice or not, but that's what I do. So, because I always found I can sometimes lean heavily with dialogue, so I just go in and I add more like I don't know what it's called, like exposition, I guess, with it. I think it's a bit easier in first person because you can just have all of that be your character's thoughts without it being dialogue, so it makes it a little bit easier. Which is why I write in first person a lot.
So, what originally inspired you to enter the challenge?
Um, I just really like happy gay people, which is like a really simple answer, but it's true. Like I was just like, especially like Ava wanted it to be like kind of happy thing, and I write a lot of angst. That's just like what I do. So I thought it would be fun to step out of my comfort zone and do a kind of like rom-com thing, which I'd never done before.
Well, you're very much not alone, I think, in our community, in our archive of writing a lot of angst,
Yeah,
myself included. So
that's just because
certainly, I know even I have, like, I've written uh, entries recently for challenges and like tried to focus on them being really positive. So certainly, we always want honesty on the so-called Fic Night hot seat here, I guess. So a simple reason, a happy reason is always a good reason in my book. Um, is this a story that you ever imagine writing more? Maybe not an exact, like, straight up sequel to the story, but more of these two characters and their relationship?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I really want to do maybe not like a multi-chapter thing because I'm really bad about finishing those, but maybe like making it into a like series. I kind of want to do a fic where Cho tells Nanette about Cedric,
Mm,
also because that would be angst, and I can go back to
right,
my nice
right,
comfort zone.
right. Back to the angst roots.
Yeah, and
We've
maybe
we've we've all been there.
yeah, and maybe Nanette actually being in the world of magic could be fun. And I have like some vague ideas of them adopting like a kid or something. Well, a kid that will go to Hogwarts.
Oh, so a magical kid.
Yeah, either like
Okay.
by Cho has a kid and they do a surrogate, or they just happen to luck out and adopt a child that's magic.
That
Right.
would
There might
that
be a lot of kids that need parents after the whole war. So
right, right.
that's
That's very true. That's, I think, like an overlooked thing.
like I
My
just thought of that and I was like, oh, that's a that sad thought, but there's probably orphans. So
Yeah, unfortunately, for sure. What what helped you, if anything, capture like this early phase relationship stuff in the writing? I guess when you're not even like quite sure that you're in a relationship and all those thoughts and emotions and everything.
I just kind of winged it, I guess. Um, I just like, and I thought about other things that I've read that were about like a relationship, or a lot of it fan fiction. Like reading those pre-relationship fanfics, I kind of thought about how I've read the characters in that and tried to apply it to mine. So that's kind of what I did.
What I have to jump off of there. Are there any particular fics that inspired you?
Uh, Not that I can think of. I just like thought about it. I'm trying to think. I've read a lot, so um, no, I can't really think of one.
Fair, fair enough. Fair enough. Um, Getting at more at you for a moment. What do you see as next on your horizon as far as writing goes?
Well, I'm currently writing a Mass Effect fanfic for the Anything But Harry Potter challenge. So, and eventually I have to update my multi-chapter fic, which I'm kind of avoiding
Right,
by
right.
writing a Mass Effect fanfic.
Well, I think it's been, I don't know how long it's been since I actually wrote a new chapter of my WIP. So
Yeah, I
so
struggle to update those. It's so different than telling yourself you'll write like a series of one shots, even though if you think about it, it could be the same thing.
right,
Just
right.
the like the work in progress thing, it just like makes me go, no.
Yeah. What's been crazy about it for me recently is, well, I guess one of them's not so recent, but I've written several challenge entries that add up to like, I don't know, like 40, 50,000 words. I haven't written any new words for my WIP in like an eternity.
Yeah. Everyone that I've had ever I've abandoned. And I'm just like I just like carefully look out, well, you don't see anything here. I'm just gonna start a new one. So I'm
Well,
trying not to do that one with my like newest Harry Potter one. So we'll see.
gotcha.
Hopefully not go
I
well.
I hear ya. If there's anything else I have not covered, what would you like readers to take away from the story?
Oh geez, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like they're cute. I don't know. I don't have anything deeper than that.
Fair enough. Well,
Like I didn't
we
really put a lot of thought, well, like into it when I was writing it because it happened. So I don't really know if there's a takeaway or not.
fair enough. Well, I love the story for sure. I'm very glad that it was able to be featured on Fic Night. I think it was an exceptional story, and you're getting excellent feedback on that as well from Deanna, who is always an inspirational force in our chat. That's going on along with the slightly delayed live stream of the video. Um, Ava, it looks like tried to Eva. I've never been sure. Say
I
sorry.
actually told her it started at 9 o'clock because I don't know how to tell time.
Well, I have been I when daylight savings came along, I was actually like an hour late to doing Fic Night the first time because and people started tweeting at me like, "Where's Fic Night? I thought it was happening at this time." And somebody DM'd me, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Now I have to like whirlwind into this and like get live and post a Twitter apology, all of this stuff. So you are not alone there. And I know it was late on my part today to be like, yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, it's at 8 tonight Eastern. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, I thought it was at 8, but then I don't know. It was just confusing. I was like, okay. Because I meant to come in for the reading, and then I was like, oh no, I came in at the end of it.
No stress at all. No stress at all. You then got to miss my hiccups and my probably butchering of the name of the author who wrote Cho's book.
I found the book on the wiki and I didn't know how to say it either. And I was like, well, glad I don't have to read it out loud.
Yeah, I think I said like La Fall. I feel like it's supposed to be like La Follet or something,
I
but
think
I wasn't gonna commit myself to the fancy pronunciation and have people be like Kevin trying to be too fancy. Speaking of posh, like Nanette's talking about.
well, it's
but
okay.
uh, but I am really glad that you were able to make it and join us. Like I said, it always makes these more exciting, whether people end up posting up questions or not. Um, and it looks like Ava is telling me that that I am mistaken, that the time is supposed to be 9 p.m. GMT. I don't know. I think there's this discrepancy between sources with like British summertime and GMT and Eastern. So anybody who's missed it and anybody who wants to tell me I need to get it together as far as time, um, I will try to get it together for sure in June, and I will just also eagerly wait for the day when we are no longer in daylight savings time or British summer time and all that, and all makes sense in the world where there's just like this 4 hour difference. So or 5 hour difference, I guess. I don't even remember what it was, but it's so much less complicated when it's not in that little window or giant window. But again, thanks so much for coming. Thank you for sharing your story with us. I know we had a lot this time around, which was cool because a lot of times I feel like people are shy about posting up their stories to be read for Fic Night, even though so far everyone has considered it to be a positive experience. I hope it was the same for you. If you go back and watch the reading, no requirements, but I really enjoyed reading.
Until I come in and then just stop.
Well, I really enjoyed reading the story, being able to talk with you about it, and meet you face to face as well, which is always a fun part for me when I am doing Fic Night. And a special shout out to my internet connection, which has been a disaster recently, but held up perfectly for just this moment for you and your story. So without further ado, which I've said too much in this particular live stream, thanks so much everybody who tuned in with us, everybody who's going to watch later, for checking out 2 months by Maggie, aka Lavana. The link to the stories in the description. It is mature rated for anybody who's concerned about that. I think that's really just like for the couple of instances of the F-bomb. But the link is in the description. Check it out. Absolutely. I think you're going to love it if you do. And with that said, I wish everybody a good night. And for everybody celebrating Memorial Day weekend and everybody around the world, I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thanks for tuning in.